So today we're going to be replacing the gasket behind the combustion blower here. I will link in the description to a video that I just made talking about the most common places that can cause like water to be leaking out of your furnace, like we have in this instance here. Today we've determined that it is that gasket on the collector box right back here. So I went ahead and ordered a new gasket kit from Goodman. First thing you're going to want to do is actually shut the gas off to the unit and remove the gas valve assembly because it's just going to be in our way. This one's got a union here, so we're just going to loosen the union, pull out these 4 screws and pull that. And then we're actually going to remove the combustion blower, which just has some 1/4-inch screws going around the perimeter, and we can pull that out, and then we can get a better look back there at what we're actually dealing with. Also going to want to kill the power to it. Got the gas valve unplugged. Set that aside. Lovely. We'll just leave this pressure switch assembly connected to there. And if possible, we'll probably just pull the switch off of the combustion blower so that we don't have to unplug the wires to it. Like that should be fine. Screws holding the combustion blower on. It's actually kind of weird. It looks like, I think there's normally one right there as well, but I don't see one there. So check this out. It looks like it was actually leaking from here as well. I still suspect, well, you can see right there, it's definitely leaking because the way that screw is. So we're still going to pull the collector box off, wipe that down, and replace that. But we're also going to replace this gasket. The kit that I ordered actually comes with all the gaskets, so not a big deal to do both of those at once. And I think when you remove the combustion blower, you're supposed to replace this gasket anyway. So next we're just going to go around and remove all the screws, and we'll save all of them. I've got some replacement ones for the ones that are really rusted. So I did also unplug the wires from the limit, the igniter, this other primary limit switch, and the flame sensor, just so I could roll all that stuff out of the way. I always recommend taking a picture before you do that, just so you can keep track of where everything goes. We got all the screws out of the cover. We've got this drain hose on the part here. We're going to go ahead and pull. There it goes. And then you just want to be really careful when removing this. You can see it came off easily from that bottom corner where it's been leaking. Just kind of flex it. Just don't want to crack the collector box while it's coming off. That would be, then you would be sad. And if it seems like it's not coming off, just double check that you didn't miss any screws. We're going to stick a screwdriver right here in this gap and pry down a little bit. Just kind of taking our time, slowly loosening that up. There it is. Okay, so yeah, you can see clearly water and debris has been getting down that edge and leaking through. So if your screws don't have a lot of meat to grab into on the bottom, it can be kind of difficult to get this to seal properly. But this face that it goes against is stainless steel, so at least on this particular Goodman. So I'm going to go and get some paper towels, and we'll get this all cleaned up and dried really well. And then I'll show you what I actually do with systems like this where it's starting to kind of rust out. So once you've got it wiped down good, it's going to take like a heat gun, or I typically use a blowtorch, and I just dry out the sealing surfaces really well. You don't want any moisture on there naturally. Usually it's just the bottom edge that's got a lot of moisture, but hit the whole thing here, and then we'll carefully clean off most of the gasket that's stuck on the face there. And you just want to get this face cleaned up as well. I do sometimes warm up the gasket a little bit too, and that seems to help it peel a little better because it kind of softens the adhesive. But it likes to do that. It's nice to get all that stuff off if you can. Ugh. Since you got that surface good and clean, you can take out your new gasket. This gasket right here is the one that's going to end up going right here, which I also have to peel that one off. And then of course this gasket right here is the one that goes around the collector box. Now they have this folded, which is kind of annoying because there's sort of a crease there. So we're going to be putting some silicone on that because this needs to stick to the collector box part. Now there is actually a top and a bottom to this gasket. You can see right here we've got 2 holes in a row. If you look at our screw pattern, we've got 2 holes in a row. So this gasket is going to go on just like this. And then it actually doesn't have any holes for some of the screw locations, but that's okay, they'll just pierce. So we'll just line up the holes that are actually able to line up. Pull that off. Inspect the surface. Since they folded it right here, don't think that's going to all the way adhere. So we're going to put a little bit of silicone just on those portions. And it's important to use high temp silicone. Probably this won't ever get very warm, but I just still think it's a good plan. And we're just going to go over the couple of little spots that have creases. And not much, just a tiny bit like that. And this is just something I've done because sometimes if you just install this the way that they intend for you to install it, then you end up coming back like a month later to do this whole process again because it starts leaking. Alright, so we're just going to carefully line it up with the holes. Stick this on. Any spots that you did have a little bit of silicone, you can just smooth out like that. And we'll just make sure that this is fully pressed down. So you stick it onto the collector box, see, and then this side doesn't actually have any adhesive, and this is always the side that leaks. So we're going to take our high temp silicone and we're going to spread a thin layer all the way around, and you want to keep it more to the outside because what we really don't want to happen is have any of that silicone get up into here and potentially restrict the airflow coming through the lines here. If you're wanting to just put it on with the gasket the way it was from factory, you can go for it, but I've found that if I don't put this little thin layer of adhesion silicone there, then it always leaks again. And then on the bottom where it has been leaking, since we've kind of got some rust starting, I like to push a glob of silicone into each one of these holes, and that usually seals it up and it's not a problem after that. So I'm going to just carefully go around and add the silicone. So each spot where there's a screw hole, I just give it a little extra squeeze wherever there's actually a screw hole. So once you have that layer of silicone carefully spread on, probably about 1/8 of an inch thick, take your gasket. See, if you look at this, there's like a pit right there from where they folded it. So this just ensures with that little bit of silicone that it's gonna seal properly. So make sure you set it so that your drain port is down properly. And keep an eye on the turbulators, which are those little metal things that stick out of here. You don't want any of those to get underneath the gasket. Looks like we're good. I'm just going to kind of place it on the bottom, rotate it up, press it in place, and from there we can start putting the screws back in. And with the screws, you don't want to tighten them all the way down right away. You want to the gasket so that you compress it evenly. And then don't use any screws that have rust on the shaft. For those, you want to install new screws if you can. And these really only should be set to like, you'll have to look up the exact torque specification for your furnace, but I think it's about 25 inch-pounds. So I'm just going to go around, get all the screws installed, and then you can see I did put that gasket on, and I also put some silicone on the face of that. I didn't put any on the back side because it always leaks on this face that doesn't have any sticky stuff on it. So maybe an improvement for these furnaces would be a gasket that has sticky stuff on both sides, but it makes it more difficult for actually installing it because once you stick it on, it's kind of stuck. So then you can just go around and tighten these with your hand. But just be really careful to not tighten them to the point where they strip out. Just snug, you know. And then I smoothed the excess silicone out with my finger around the outside. You can see I held the silicone toward the outside a little more. And yeah, next we'll put the combustion blower back in and then just plug everything back in where it was and put the gas valve in, and then we should be pretty much good to go. So once you have everything put back together, you can go ahead and test out the system. Now I typically will start the system up pretty much right away after putting it together, but if you wanted, you could wait for that adhesive to set up for a couple hours, or turn the furnace set point down so that it doesn't bring on the heat for a few hours. But I really haven't had any issues with running the heat right away after putting the silicone in. It seems like it squishes and sets up just fine, even if there is a little bit of moisture after you've gotten everything squeezed together. So we're just gonna make sure that it lights up here. Oh, I forgot to plug in the gas valve, so okay. Plug the gas valve in, and it'll probably actually open this time. I startled myself super bad because I accidentally touched this. When I get startled really bad, I tend to like stop the recording immediately for some reason. Alright, it's gonna try again here. Igniter. Once you've put these back on, you want to make sure that the burners went on over the orifices properly. If you accidentally have one of those out of line, you can get a really bad flame like rolling back out of here. There it goes, straight across to the flame sensor, which you can't really see. There it is. And then you'll just want to monitor this. The wet area should dry up. Might take it like 2 days to actually clear up most of the way, but I don't think that we're really gonna have any leaks because of the silicone. I accidentally got like a big glob back in that corner, but I'm not gonna worry about it. I don't think it's a problem. So, should be good. Anyway, hope that you found this video helpful. I'll try to link down the description to the gasket kit that I used for this furnace, or at least just to some different Goodman furnace gasket kits. And I'll try to link to some high temp silicone as well. So anyway, hope that you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you later.